Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 55 of a Disney Live podcast. This is a place where friends can gather together to discuss our Disney travels and share those with you. My name is Rachel, and I'm joined today by my co host, Missy. Hi, Missy.
Hey, Rachel, and hello, listeners. Thanks for joining us today.
We also have a very special guest who has been on the show a few times, and this is Tammy Whiting. Hello, Tammy. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
So, Tammy is the author of the unofficial guide to Disney Cruise Line. When it comes to cruising, Tammy knows her stuff. So, we always enjoy having her on the show to be able to discuss what she knows about Disney Cruise Line, especially, and her cruising adventures. And today we do have a treat for you. Recently, Tammy returned from a back-to-back 3 sailings on the Disney adventure that is going out of Singapore. And so on this episode, she'll be going through some things that are different about the Disney adventure compared to the other ships in the fleet, and some things that are similar as well. So we thought this would be a fun treat for all of you. She'll also be talking to us about her stay in the Elsa suite, which is the premier suite on board the Disney adventure. So stick around for that. Additionally, She'll be talking to us about Singapore, what she did while she was there before her cruise, and we can't wait for you to hear all that we have going on. I can't wait to hear it either, Tammy. I'm so glad that you're here for us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So stick around and stay tuned, and we'll get right into telling you more about the Disney adventure.
Welcome, Tammy. Thank you so much for being with us today. I know that you are very busy getting next year's edition of the unofficial guide to Disney Cruise Line ready, and you are exceptionally busy right now. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Let's get right into things with, I think, it's the big thing that most people are concerned about with sailing out of Singapore, assuming you're from the United States, which many of our listeners and many Disney fans that we're used to chatting with are from the United States. It's a big trip to get from here over there. And I know Rachel mentioned during our little intro that Tammy sailed on a back-to-back, which if you're not familiar in the cruise industry means 3 sailings in a row. So she'll be able to tell us a little bit more about exactly how that worked for her. It may sound a little excessive, but these are all shorter sailings. And when you make that trek over there and you're taking that long flight to get all the way to Singapore from the United States, you want to spend as much time there as you possibly can. So that's exactly what Tammy did. Tammy, why don't you go ahead, if you don't mind, starting with telling us a little bit about how you got there, what your experience was in Singapore before boarding the Disney adventure.
Okay, sure. Singapore's a long way away from the United States. It's some of the longest flights in the world, and you're probably looking at 16 to 18 hours for a flight.
Many people may have just said, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm out.
No way.
Well, if that's you, that's okay. Because right now, that's me too. I think I'd have to be sedated, but I still would love to hear about it and know what I'm missing at this point, because maybe someday I will get there.
I think part of the motivation for going that far is wanting to see that part of the world as well.
Mhm.
And so it's not just about going to see a Disney ship, and it shouldn't be, because there's so many amazing things to see over there. And if you're a huge Disney fan, the Asian parts are not that far away, once you've already done one long haul flight, instead of doing multiple long haul flights. So it's worth it to me. It's a part of the world I was going to go to at some point anyway. And then huge bonus, brand new Disney ship. Totally worth it for me. But I do believe you need to, these cruises, as Missy mentioned, are 3 and 4 nights. I mean, that's crazy to fly over there for just a 3-night cruise or a 4-night cruise and then come home.
It's hard to justify flying from Pennsylvania to Florida sometimes for a 3-night cruise. Well, I will do it any day of the week. You say the word and I will be there. But it's a lot, because you just feel like you're getting to know the ship, you're feeling at home, and you realize, oh no, it's time to pack because I need to head out. So, but those shorter sailings, you can bump them up together back to back, and it works pretty well.
Yes, and I think back to back is just about perfect. Back to back was perfect for us because we'd never seen the ship before. It's brand new. We wanted to get to know it, but really back to back is perfect amount of time on there. If that's all you can spare, we had plenty of time to get to see everything. There's so many restaurants, all of that on board, so we had time to do all of that and then really just relax on our 3rd sailing and enjoy our beautiful suite that we will talk about in a few minutes. I flew from Denver to San Francisco to Singapore. So my San Francisco to Singapore flight was 16 and a half hours. And not as bad as I
Gracious.
I will not as bad as I feared, and the plane was 100% full. And so there are a lot of
Wow.
people doing it all the time,
Wow,
both
that
directions.
is crazy.
Yeah. Singapore, if you've seen the movie Crazy Rich Asians, as soon as I saw that movie many years ago, I was like, I want to go to Singapore. It looks amazing. And it is. It is a beautiful, beautiful place with a ton to do. It is hot. It is so, so hot. It's very close to the equator, and so it's kind of a year-round temperature, but it is
Mhm.
hot and humid, and you need to be prepared for that. I mean, I think we had 82 to 90% humidity every day we were there.
Wow,
Even
so you're walking around in a water bubble, basically.
absolutely, absolutely.
You're
Yes.
not really selling this so far, Tammy.
That's the downside. The upside is it's beautiful. And as I said, there's so many things to do there. The zoo is amazing. The food there is amazing. We ate at a little kiosk. I've blanked on what they call them there, like a little food truck, food market. And one of the stands, and there are several there, one of the stands had a Michelin star. And we were like, okay.
Stop it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a few of them there that do. And it was amazing. We actually looked for the longest line and got in the longest line, assuming that would be the best one, and realized as we were in line, like, oh wait, this is one of the ones with the Michelin star.
Oh,
And
nice, yeah.
yeah, it was great. And we did a hop on, hop off bus the first day, which gave us kind of a good feel for the city. And we stayed in we stayed in 5 different hotels while we were there, so we could try a different one. So we could try a bunch of different ones. I wouldn't say do that when you go over there, but it was great for us so I could make some recommendations for it and so we could experience different ones. 2 of them were the nicest hotels I've ever stayed at. One of them was absolutely the nicest hotel I've ever stayed at in my life. It was amazing. And that was Raffles, the name of that one. It's a historic hotel. It's classic luxury. Incredible. We had our own butler, brought us everything we wanted. We had a shelf full of food and drinks and anything we wanted all included in there in our room. And then the property itself was beautiful. It was a gorgeous location. It had all these beautiful little courtyards. Our room was gorgeous. They'd updated everything inside. Loved it. And then the second standout hotel was Marina Bay Sands, which you would recognize also from Crazy Rich Asians. And it's the 3 towers that look like a surfboard on top.
Mhm.
It's gorgeous. That pool on top is amazing, amazing, amazing. And I would stay there again in both of those in a heartbeat.
Okay, so were these all pre-cruise? You said 5 different hotels, so how early did you arrive to your cruise?
2 before and 3 after.
Okay.
The first night I actually stayed at the airport, and there is a hotel there at the airport. And the Singapore airport is like no other airport. It's got tourist sites in the airport. These beautiful things that people come to see. So the hotel in the airport is like you get off your plane and you just, walk. You get your luggage and you just walk to the hotel, which was so convenient, especially if you've got a late flight. And I didn't land until 8 o'clock that night or so. So it was so nice not to have to get in a taxi or anything and go find a hotel. It's, walked right to my hotel and got a good night's sleep that first night.
That is nice. Yeah. That's a good recommendation, especially the time difference, time change. What were you, 13 hours difference
Yeah,
there?
12 hours for Colorado.
Okay, 12 hours. Wow. So that's
Oh, no,
quite the
sorry,
difference.
14. 12 for East Coast, 14 for Colorado. Yes.
Okay. Wow.
It
That
got
is a
tricky
lot.
when she was gone. I chat with Tammy almost every day, and I'd get up in the morning and be like, okay, it's almost time for her to go to bed. I better tell her everything that happened yesterday because I didn't want to be bothering her in the middle of the night. It was tough. I was like, woman, would you come back here already, please? Go back.
It did end up being a long trip. It did. There's also a Universal there. We went to Universal one day, and
Mm.
that was very fun. It's a very small Universal, but it was still a really fun little park.
Yeah, I saw some photos of someone who was traveling with you. She posted some photos, and there were some things that I thought, okay, if I make it to Singapore someday, I'm going to have to check that out. There were and
Swing
with
by
my
there too,
children
right?
because there were a lot of things that it looked like they would have a great time with.
Yep.
So lots of great hotel recommendations then. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about getting to the port and your experience there at their terminal. Was it as smooth as it is that we're used to over here in Port Canaveral and Fort Lauderdale?
It is. It's almost identical. We all had port arrival times and that we'd signed up for beforehand, as you normally do. And we took a Grab is their version of Uber and Lyft there, which was very, very easy and very efficient. Singapore is a no tipping culture, which is
Huh.
wonderful because then when you walk into a hotel and they're like, "Let us take your bags up," and you're like, "Oh, I don't have any cash. I don't have the local currency." They don't want it. They don't need it. They don't expect it. And
Huh.
so that was great. And so we in that I remember that because with Grab, there's no option to even tip at the end. Like
Oh, wow.
Wow.
you pay for your Grab and, you're done. They don't even let you tip. So we got to the port and the porters waiting there to take our bags had actual machines that printed out our stateroom number and everything on it. We
Oh,
had no
wow.
luggage. Yeah, they don't send out luggage tags. But they had little machines there that just printed out our luggage tag right there and put it on our suitcase. And I was like, well, that's better than
Can we
Yeah.
get those over here? It seems like I'm sure it's not cheap, but also it costs money for DCL to still mail out these printed luggage tags for guests
Yep.
over here, stateside.
If
I'm
you even
feeling
get them.
yes.
Let's be honest.
Maybe that's how they save money. They
Yeah.
randomly select half the guests on one cruise and don't send them out. Half the guests on every cruise, I should say. Yeah. They seem a little sporadic sometimes. You never know.
Mhm.
But that is an extra cost that really isn't necessary anymore. I don't remember any other cruise lines right now that still mail them, out of the major cruise lines like Royal
Sure.
Caribbean, Celebrity. You're
Yeah.
printing those on your own. So, well, that's cool. All right. So they printed them, put them on, and took them away, did they?
Yep, they did took them away, and we didn't see them again till later in our stateroom, just like normal. And we went inside, checked in. Check-in process is very normal as well. The lounge, there's a concierge lounge there, but the terminal itself has a huge seating area, lots of room for everyone, and obviously because there's a lot of people on this ship. Concierge lounge was not very big. It was actually full by the time we got all checked in and everything, which was fine. We were happy to see the rest of the terminal there. And there was a supervisor's desk where you could try to upgrade in the port if you wanted to. So the check-in process and all of that was very, very similar.
Huh. All right. So you're in the terminal. The anticipation is building. I know how exciting that is when you're first going to board. What were your first impressions when you walked aboard the ship? I know from what I've seen in some videos, it's very different than walking into the atrium or the grand hall on the other ships.
It is. That is the first big difference. Normally on a Disney ship, it's a real highlight for people to walk. You
Mhm.
walk into the grand hall or the atrium, and they announce your name on a microphone, and there are many cast members standing there applauding, excited for you to be there, and they'll give you some help on where to go. This is not that. And I have been surprised at how upset people are about not getting their name announced on the microphone. I mean, it's fun. It's also awkward for me at times if I'm with a bunch of friends and we're like, I don't even know who to tell you to say. And it wasn't a huge deal to me, but it's a huge deal to a lot of people. And I will say I've seen at some ports here, Canada maybe, I'm forgetting where, but we were not able to board into the atrium or the grand hall on a couple of ships, a couple of times because of the water level or where the gangway was. And we would board on deck 4 instead of deck 3. So you're not going into the atrium, but they still had somebody there with a microphone and all the cast members applauding. And
Oh,
so
wow.
it still felt similar, and I really think Disney could do that with this as well. But you walk into basically the stairwell. The stairwell on
Oh,
deck.
wow. Okay.
Like you just came back from port and here you
Yeah.
are.
So impressive.
Exactly. And there are a few cast members there to help you, letting you know where to go. A couple of ours struggled a little bit because, they were new too. And they weren't quite sure where everything was on the ship themselves. But they will still welcome you on board, those few cast members that are there, and then you can be on your way. There's several places open for lunch that first day, but that's the first difference is the boarding. The actual stepping onto the ship is a little bit different.
Okay, I know something else people are typically very concerned with on boarding day is where they're going to eat once they're on the ship. Did that seem to be the culture there too? Was everybody rushing to eat, or did people care more about seeing the ship, did it seem?
So we cared more about seeing the ship. Now we were hungry
Mhm.
and we went to eat pretty quickly, but first we ran around while the ship was still pretty empty to see as much as we could. And then we went
Mhm.
and found the options to eat. There's no typical buffet that's set up all day long, or for multiple meals on
Hmm.
this ship. There are 6 main dining rooms. And so we'll talk about that one. That's the same and different because it's different because there's 6 of them. You're on a rotation, but you are still on rotational dining, just like we're used to. So rotational dining
Mhm.
is the same, and you will eat in 3 of those. So the good news about not being able to see all 6 of them is they're paired as far as menus go. So you'll have 2 of them go together, even if they're not the exact same theme, but they both have the same menu. And so you'll go through all the menus. You just may not eat in all the restaurants. But most of them, 4 out of the 6, I believe, are open for breakfast and lunch during the day. So you can still get in there and see them, even if you are
At
not
some other
eating.
time of the day. Well,
Yeah.
that's nice. That works out
Yeah.
well.
So I
So
have
a
a quick
couple of the
question. Were
restaurant.
you able to make a request to say, "Hey, I've got 3 sailings on this. Can we have, like, this rotation and this rotation?" Probably not anything Disney could guarantee you, but was that a pretty easy request to make?
It was. And we did make requests for all 3, but after our first one, the last night while we were eating, the head server came to our hotel, our table and said, "You're doing a back-to-back, and we have you assigned to this rotation next time, this different rotation next time, unless you want something else." And so we talked through it with them, what we'd seen and what we hadn't seen, and, but they were willing to change it right then and there to work with us. So that
Wow.
was great. Yeah, they did
That's
that.
great customer service.
Yes,
And
they did that.
that was in the main dining room, not in concierge. So
Right.
that's something that could possibly be offered to all guests, not just concierge guests with
Right.
back-to-backs.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Main
That's
dining
great.
room, and he did it for the 3rd sailing as well. A different head server came and did it for the 3rd sailing as well. And we
Wow.
loved our servers. We wanted to stay with them for those next sailings, but they were on different rotations than we were, and we really wanted to see the other restaurants.
So I know typically with back-to-back sailings, it's a goal of the guest to try to have the same stateroom for every sailing so that you're not having to move all of your things, unpack, repack, unpack, repack. But I'm assuming you had different rooms for each leg of this trip. Is that correct? And if so, can you tell us, I guess let's go through the staterooms and you can tell us about what they offered, the differences. I'm assuming the suite was your favorite. You had mentioned you stayed in the Elsa suite, but let's talk a little about staterooms next.
Yes, we did stay in 3 different ones, and absolutely, like you said, we wanted to see as many staterooms as we could. And I was also able to tour a few others by asking in my Facebook group, or the Facebook group for the cruise, if anybody would let me come do a video for the unofficial guide. And I had a few people take me up on that. So I got to see a lot of different staterooms, which was really neat. And there are a lot of similarities to the staterooms that we're used to. They also are very different in some ways. And some of the things that are the same, they all have split bathrooms, which I love split bathrooms. And even their smallest rooms had split bathrooms. And they do not have tubs. I hate that. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 tubs on that whole ship. I mean, bathtubs are not the norm at all. And the layout of most of the staterooms is very similar, with a bed as you enter the room, just past the bathrooms, the bed, and then a couch. But the actual feel for the room is a little different. They've put up some Disney artwork. From what I understand, these staterooms were almost finished when Disney bought this ship. And so Disney came in and changed some things, but not everything. And they did add artwork to theme each room a little bit, but otherwise it's a little bit more industrial is too strong of a word. They're not that bare bones, but like the carpet's doesn't feel quite as nice. There's some things like that, but still great staterooms. Some of them are spectacular. The Elsa suite is spectacular. And we were we weren't lucky. We were kind of lucky because we were on one of the sailings that was canceled, which was not lucky. That was very sad, as the ship was delayed coming on into service. And so we got 50% off a future cruise. And so we were like, well, we're going to use that for something good. So we did. And so we stayed in the Elsa suite the last sailing. It is absolutely stunning, just stunning. And counting the veranda, and the veranda was huge, it is the biggest stateroom in the fleet. And there's only 2 bedrooms. Tower suites on the normal ships, on most of the ships there, have 4 bedrooms, so it's not as big occupancy wise, although 6 people do fit in it, but it is bigger space wise. And yeah, it was
Wow.
it was, the details in it, everything was just beautiful. The veranda was beautiful. There was a hot tub out there. There was a large yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
I know it is. I know it is. There's 2 of them. They're royal suites. There's an Anna suite and an Elsa suite. And we were on the Elsa side, and it's set up very similarly to the other royal suites, and that there's a wine cooler of wine and champagne and things like that. That's all included. They'll bring you more. And there's Mickey bars, their version of Mickey bars in the freezer. The fridge, full-size fridge, is stocked with all kinds of drinks, and there was beer in there. There's sodas and juices and things like that. And we
Do you
got a
have photos? Do you have photos of what their Mickey bars look like? That in particular, I would like to put up on our socials because I think that's pretty fun. Obviously, we want to see the entire suite. That's amazing too. But I'm very interested in their
let's get to the
version of
important-
Mickey
okay.
bars.
Hold on. How are their Mickey bars different? Because not everybody is going to see this. So how?
So they are vanilla and vanilla ice cream, and instead of being covered in chocolate, and they're Mickey shaped, but instead of being covered in chocolate, there's like a chocolate Mickey face stuck onto one side of them, and so they're not fully covered in chocolate.
Like a hard shell or like
Hard shell.
Okay.
Hard Mickey Mouse face, and then the vanilla.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That.
Sorry, we did a taste test, and they were good. They did taste a little different, but they were still good.
Okay. Good to know. But yes, we'll get photos and post those on our socials, everyone. So please go find how the Mickey premium bars look overseas. Now, here's a question. We have a lot of friends who enjoy Cloud'em. Has Cloud'em made its way?
Yes and no. It has, but they were out of it on ours. And they did have some here and there because someone that we were traveling with, they ordered Cloud'em for their platinum gift that you get in the stateroom. And we were also offered Cloud'em for our stateroom gift, but when it came, it actually was not Cloud'em. It was a non-alcoholic wine. I think it was called Missing Thorn, I think was the name of it. I did not love it, but I have seen on Facebook some people love it. But we asked inside the lounge, we asked at a couple of different bars, and they all said we're totally sold out, and they don't know when they're going to get more. So hopefully they underestimated how much people would want Cloud'em.
I think between our friends, we could easily sell this ship out of Cloud'em ourselves. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Underestimated us.
I wonder if the original intention of Cloud'em was for adults who were that amused by it, or if it was for children. Because I feel like brightly colored, sparkly drinks are not really adults aren't really the target audience for that. However, somehow now they are.
It's true. They totally are.
I'll need to research the origin of Cloud'em someday. It's such a mysterious beverage.
It was at the Epcot Food and Wine Festival many, many years ago, and before it ever made its way to the ships. And so,
oh wow,
I don't know how it was marketed there, but yeah, that's where it was first seen.
Maybe it was a test run. Maybe they were like, what can we do with this?
Maybe so.
Who will buy this drink? Oh, the Disney people. They'll buy this drink. Those Disney fans get suckered into a lot.
Oh, they sure do. You should look at my fridge full of Cloud'em bottles. Okay, so the staterooms, some other things that were the same, or excuse me, let's go with different. The outlets. The outlets are European outlets. There are no US plugs in there. And there are some USBs and USB-Cs, but you need an adapter and, maybe a converter. So outlets, you have to be prepared for that. European, interestingly, not Asian outlets, European, because it was constructed in Germany, I'm assuming. There's also hair dryers. I did a rant on my social media about the hair dryers because they were maddening. They worked very well. They were attached to underneath the vanity. They were attached to the wall underneath the desk, and so the cord wasn't long enough. And they were some of those dryers that you had to push down the button for them to go. And so I kid you not, sometimes we are blow drying our hair with like this, or the other way, I guess.
Leaning right over, all stretched out.
Leaned right over, trying to hold down the button and dry your hair. It was rather hilarious at times. But they do have hair dryers. You don't need to bring them and worry about converters and all that. So that is good, at least. The staterooms that have gotten the most attention on the Disney Adventure, because the concept art was a little rough on them, but actually a little bit accurate. And they are the standard, and most people think they are only inside rooms. They're standard inside, but they also have ocean view and verandas for this exact same stateroom. And I was able to go in one, and they are benches. There's no bed when you walk in. It's set up like two benches one on each wall. And those benches also have pull-down beds above them. They turn into 4 single beds, 2 above and 2 below. And during the day, like I said, there's no bed. They're benches. They are very interesting looking. And they are certainly not what we're used to at all. But I talked to the person that was staying in there before and after her sailing. And she said it was perfect for them because they wanted
Huh.
4 beds. They didn't want to share a bed, and no one had to share a bed. They had plenty of room during the day when everything was, turned back into a daytime setting, set up for the room. And it was the incredibly inexpensive.
Hmm.
So they still had the same bathrooms that everyone else did. They still had the same tea kettle, coffee pot in the room that everybody else did. They just have those interesting beds. And you can get those rooms in an inside category, an ocean view category, or a veranda category. And it's the cheapest way into that category. It's a lead in for that category. So it can really save you some money. And you're often not in the room that much. So, they're not a they're not.
So these rooms, from the photos that I've seen, and I would love to see more than just the beds because the only photos that I've seen are just with the beds out, and it just kind of
Mhm.
makes it look like it's just a room with 4 bench beds.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a rail car.
I was just going to say
Yeah.
that same exact thing.
Yeah.
That's how those benches look. And I'm
Yes.
so curious as to why they just went with those very basic looking benches rather than just putting 2 couches facing each other. I mean, still odd, but a little more comfortable for seating than than what those rail car looking things are. I mean, maybe they're more comfortable than what they look like in the photos I've seen, but
That is
strange.
a that is a very good analogy, and I think the answer to that is that those rooms were done, and when Disney
Mm.
got that, those rooms were done, and those couches were there, and I think it's also a culture thing. Many people in that culture do not want to share beds even with friends, and so they want the separate beds, and I'll tell you what, those rooms are selling very quickly, so they are.
I would probably book one. I certainly wouldn't say no. I mean, I wouldn't want to have 2 beds if I was traveling with my husband, but as our listeners know, we often travel in groups, and I wouldn't hesitate to have one of those in an effort to have a single bed.
Yes, I think I would too.
Hmm. Okay, anything else notable about the staterooms before we move on to the rest of this giant ship?
Yeah, last thing about the staterooms, that there are some that I think are going to be incredibly popular once people realize what a great location they are. And I think they already are very popular. And those are the staterooms that overlook Imagination Garden. And
Mhm.
Imagination Garden is a big space on this ship. It's an open air space on this ship. It's almost like Central Park on Royal Caribbean ships, if you've ever been on one of those large Royal
We
Caribbean.
talked about that a little bit several episodes back when we had our friend Rob on here,
Yeah.
and he had been on Adventure, and we talked about that comparison with Central Park on Royal
Yes.
Caribbean ships, which seemed like such a strange thing to me, but it works.
It
And that
does.
Imagination Garden looks amazing based on what I've seen online.
It is beautiful. It's just beautiful. There's no typical grand hall or atrium on this ship, but what they do call the atrium is not Imagination Garden, which is funny to me because Imagination Garden feels like the hub of the ship to me. It's
Huh.
where so many activities take place. It's where some shows take place. There's a bar, it's very huge. And then also, like I said, they have those staterooms that overlook it. And many of the staterooms have Imagination Garden views listed, but not all of them can see the stage, which is on one side of Imagination Garden. And you're looking at category 4 or 5, and category A and 4A are near the stage and can see the stage. Category 4B and 5B cannot because those staterooms are actually Imagination Garden is on 2 levels. And so those staterooms are on looking down onto the second level, and it's obstructed to see the stage. But
Okay.
if you're an Imagination Garden, you want to be able to see that stage. I saw so many people out there watching the shows from their veranda with their air conditioned room right there. They could just pop in and pop out. And we were all jealous of them. And they didn't have to get there early to save seats or,
Mhm.
to find a place to sit, and most people did sit for the shows in the garden there. And the shows that are out there are really fun, and one of them is the best show on board probably, and that's Avengers Assemble, which
Mm.
things take place all over the garden. It was such a great show, and it takes place out there, as well as Duffy and the Friendship Show, which is very popular because Duffy and all of his friends are there. And there's a Hero and Baymax like exercise little short show. It's kind of fun. They lead the crowd in some exercises. So there's a few different shows that take place out there. Jack's Diaper Dash takes place out there. All those kind of things that we're used to.
So you mentioned people sitting. I do want to ask because I have been to the parks in Japan, and it is very cultural that people will sit, and they will sit for a long time prior to shows to get a good spot, and it's actually even if you just walk up right before a show starts, it's pretty easy to watch because everybody in front of you is sitting.
Yes.
Is that kind of the culture how it was on board too? Because I'm guessing this targets a big Asian audience, and I know there were plenty of Americans on board, but, was that also the culture there that, people got there early and they sat and they waited
It is,
patiently?
absolutely. It is.
Okay.
It is. Everyone was sitting for Avengers Assemble. I think for the Duffy show, that one of the ones that I was at, not as many people were sitting. But in general, yes, when the cast members are out there getting people ready and everything, everyone's sitting. You mentioned Americans. There were very, very few Americans on board. I would say less than 5% of the,
Wow.
yeah. And
Yeah.
if you throw in the Aussies and UK and all that, I think maybe we would get to 10%, but
What?
that's about it, and we got to know a bunch of crew members, and every time we'd walk by, they were like, "Hello," and they'd say our names, and I was like, "Oh, man, they're really good at remembering us." Then I realized, also, we're the only Americans on board, and several of them were from America, and, like, one time I went into a kids club, and they said, "Just go on back for the open house." And I said, "Thank you," and he went, "Wait, where are you from?" And he was from New Jersey, and he was very excited to hear an American accent.
Oh, wow. Well, and I think, over on the other cruises that I've sailed, especially in the Caribbean, you don't see a lot of a lot of American crew members on board. I've seen it more and more lately, but I don't think they advertise as heavily as they do in some other countries for working on board. But I understand with Disney, a lot of people have that Disney dream, whether they're on land or on sea, to be a cast member. So
Uh-huh.
that makes
That's
sense.
true. Yeah, so that's it. That's about the staterooms. The ship layout in general, very different. There's two open air spaces. Imagination Garden we talked about. The other one is Discovery Reef, and it's set up like an underwater theme. Everything in there, except for one restaurant, has an underwater kind of theme to it, and or ocean theme to it, Moana, things like that. And it's really a beautiful place. There's no shows that take place out there. There are staterooms that overlook that, but there's no shows that take place out there. So really just kind of looking down at the activity happening down there.
So we've already talked about a few comparisons between the Disney Adventure and the rest of the Disney Cruise Line fleet. I'm sure there are many more that we haven't touched on yet, though. And as we have mentioned earlier, Tammy really is the queen of all things Disney Cruise Line. She has been sailing for many years, and she literally wrote the book about Disney Cruise Line. So I would love to hear Tammy's thoughts on some comparisons of the ships we're all used to, the rest of the Disney Cruise Line fleet as compared to the Disney Adventure, and what you loved about the Adventure more and what you prefer on the other ships that we've already sailed on together.
Sure. I will say this ship is very, very different, has a very different feeling, but it still feels very Disney. And we loved it. I mean, we had a great time, and I absolutely will go back. It's 100% worth the journey over there especially when you add in other things to do. And there were several things. I think Disney was very smart about this. They bought this ship that was going to look very different and really put their own spin on it. And whereas they couldn't change everything about it, they put their own spin on it, and they put a lot of the things that we as Disney fans love and expect. And like the hull colors, the Monica blue hull on the ship, the red funnels with the Mickey Mouse, head on it. And so they made a lot of things feel like things we already knew and feel familiar. Like the restaurant, there's an animator's table, there's an animator's palette, two different restaurants on there. Both of them feel very similar to the animators on Magic and Wonder, maybe a more upscale version of those, an updated upscale version of those, but they do the animation magic show that we're used to in the United States. Servers moving with you, the rotational dining, things that we love, and those are all happening on board. So they did a really good job of taking something that feels very different, but making it familiar in a lot of ways as well. One of the things that's very different, especially for a Disney ship, and it's not as different for some other lines, but that's the rides on the top deck. And there's 3 rides up there. One of them is kind of like a small Autopia, a little teeny Autopia track, just a little oval track, and that's Pym's Quantum Racers. And then Groot's Galaxy Spin is kind of like a Dumbo on top. And so neither one of these rides were, especially made for adults, but they're both really cute. We did both of them, both very cute rides and absolutely a blast for kids. And then the third ride is the roller coaster, and that's Iron Cycle Test Run. And my expectations for this ride were very, very low. I mean, it's a roller coaster on a cruise ship. It's teeny. I mean, how good can it be? It's teeny. And it blew us all away. It was so much fun. It is fast. There are some great angles on it. There's one time in particular, you're going over the side of the ship, not really, but it feels like you're going over the side of the ship and you're looking straight down at the water as you go down, and you feel like, I am going into the water. You go around twice, which helps, and they take pictures of you on board. And as you're going, you can see everything happening around you on the ship. And it's a really, really great coaster. We did it 3 times. We could have done it more. It's totally worth it. They do have I say that, they do have a limit of how many times you can ride. You can only ride once per sailing. And it's moved to a queue. It was a virtual thing. You had to book it in the app. But now it's moved to a standby queue, which the lines can get very long from everything I've seen, but it's still totally worth it. But you still can only do it once per sailing. Now, if you're in the Elsa suite, you can do it every day.
How nice of
There's
them.
one little perk there. One little perk. So yeah, I think Disney did a great job with these rides. It's something, whereas it breaks up the classic feel of the tops of the ship, it is something that I would not mind seeing on a future Disney ship closer to home. I think it's great it's got some great appeal for teens and tweens, and some of the things that, some of the other cruise lines may appeal a little bit more to that age group sometimes, and would be a big draw for something like that.
So I can remember being on a Norwegian cruise line ship and they had their race cars on the top. I was exceptionally unimpressed with those because they were stinky and they loud. And when I was trying to relax at the pool area down below, it was like I was at a racetrack all day. And that's not what I want when I'm on a cruise ship. So are these placed on the Disney Adventure in a way that they're not disrupting other quieter areas of the ship? I mean, I know it's a giant ship, so I'm assuming it's not over an adult area or something like that.
It is not. They are pretty unobtrusive. The Iron Cycle there is one stretch where it will go over the adult pools, which have become adult pools. They did not start out as adult pools, and there was no dedicated adult pool area. Now there is. There is one stretch where it goes right over it. It's not exceptionally loud. It's definitely not smelly, like you're not smelling gas or anything like that. It's it's pretty exciting the first few times you see it go over. But when you're in the pools, you don't even notice it. It's not right above the pools. It's further up a little bit. And then as it comes around the other side, there's nothing there. There are no pools underneath it there. And the 2 rides there also aren't near any of the pools in case most people are relaxing.
Excellent. So one thing I'm very curious about is how Palo works on the Disney Adventure, because I know that's one big difference between the other ships. So on the other ships, Palo and Palo Steakhouse are 18 and over, adults only. Can you tell us how it differs on the Disney Adventure?
Yes, it does differ now more than when I was on board. When I was on board, it felt very similar rules-wise. Like, if you've sailed 10 times or more, if you're a platinum cruiser, you still got a free meal there. The price is the same. There's a brunch, there's a dinner, and the servers were amazing as always. It is stunningly beautiful, the most beautiful Palo I've been in. And it is called Palo Trattoria there. So they were having a very hard time filling it up. And when we were on board, I was asking somebody there if when might be a quiet time that I could come take some pictures of it. And they were going through their evenings and like, well, we have 8 people eating tonight. We have 18 people eating the next night.
Wow.
So very empty. And I believe it's another cultural thing that they don't, when they're on vacation, they don't leave their children as much as we do. They like to vacation with their children, which imagine.
No.
I know. I know.
I like to vacation with my children. I'm just putting that out there.
So, as
This
Americans,
is a heated topic in my house right now because we have a wish sailing booked for this August, and one of my kids is old enough for Palo and the other isn't. So I'm like, Do we keep it? Do we not keep it? I don't know. Report back on that with what we decide. But
Yeah,
anyway.
I'd like to know what you decide on that too. It is kind of a rite of passage, when you turn 18, it's, yay, you get to go to Palo for the first time. So because of that, and not just a cultural thing, it's also, they're short sailings. And the vast majority of people on board were first-time cruisers. Vast majority of
wow.
people. Yes. There were no Castaway Club lanyards, to the point when we would see one, we'd be like, oh, look, they've been on a Disney cruise before. So it's partly that, partly I'm sure that people don't, well, why am I going to pay for food? As I know you've discussed before. Why am I going to pay for food when everything is free on board? And I don't want to leave my children, and there's so many other things to do and see. So they were having a hard time filling it. So they have changed the rules, and now children 10 and up can eat in Palo Trattoria with an adult. It's ship specific right now. Has not moved to any other ships. I don't think it will unless the other ships start having a hard time filling Palo. Then it's possible it could happen one day. But for now, Disney has said it's a very ship specific thing. 10's a pretty reasonable age. It's a long meal. And you're going to know as a parent if your child wants to sit there for an hour and a half to 2 hours or more at times and eat all these multiple courses or not. Is it worth it to them? So children can eat there now. I think it's probably a necessary change for the adventure, and we'll see how it works out. I haven't heard any negative reviews since it's changed a few weeks ago. And then the second upcharge restaurant is Mike and Sully's, and Mike and Sully's Flavors of Asia. And it is a Japanese steakhouse. They have teppanyaki, they have omakase, they have sushi. So they have 4 different experiences there. And from the day the ship started sailing, has allowed children. And I don't think there's any minimum on the ages of children that were there. Dined with some very small children in the dining room there. And I thought it was interesting, like even the omakase, which is $200 a person, people were there with their children.
Oh, wow.
I was like, well, that's an expensive little meal there that you're having.
And a specific palate, too. That is
very specific palate.
Yeah.
Very
well, in other cultures, they're a little bit better at feeding their children things more than chicken tenders. No offense to certain people we know who may be adults that still just want chicken tenders. That's okay. But, they have slightly more sophisticated palates in other part of the world, I think, for some of their children than we have here.
Yes.
For the most part.
Yes.
Not saying everyone in the United States. I'm just saying a lot. Okay. Did you have anything else on your list of comparisons?
I do. Let's see. Quick service restaurants. This is different and a huge plus on the Disney adventure. I went on board not quite knowing, what the food situation was going to be like. For me, a picky eater. But I knew I would find some things that I liked. And the quick service was incredible. We ate, there were a few times by our last cruise that we skipped the main dining rooms just to eat this quick service so many times. And
oh, wow.
There are, up top, there's Pizza Planet, which, basic pizza. Pizza's, is pizza ever really bad? No, it's never really bad. There was nothing stand out about it. But the 4 quick service places that we loved so much were down. 2 of them are in Imagination Garden. 2 of them are in Discovery Reef. So they're all very close to each other. And one of them is Mowgli's Eatery. It's an Indian restaurant. One of them is Moana's, which is Polynesian food. One of them is Cosmic Kebabs, which is Marvel themed, and it's kebabs and gyros. And then one is a burger place, and it's Stitches. That food was so good. So good. I'm embarrassed to tell you how many hamburgers I had at Stitches because they were some of the best hamburgers, not just on board, some of the best hamburgers I've had.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Give us an estimate. We won't judge you. This is a judgment-free zone. Are we talking like 3 burgers or like 10 burgers? Like how much? And of course, what was this?
It was somewhere between 3 and 10. Let's go with that.
Okay.
And the other great thing about them is that they were open until 2 of them were open till midnight, which is not the norm on Disney ships anymore. And it was,
I like that. I would take that midnight burger.
I know you would. And Stitches wasn't open quite as late, but it was open through the dinner hour. And then Mowgli's and Moana's or Grammatala, sorry, that one's called Grammatala's. Those closed for a couple hours around dinner time, but then they reopened and then stayed open till midnight. which was wonderful.
Okay. Huh. That is wonderful because we have often lamented food choices at night on
Yes,
board. If you miss main dining, I mean, you get a hot dog or something
right.
and only until about nine
If you're
o'clock.
lucky, sometimes even the hot dogs are closed and your only option is pizza, which isn't a terrible
Yeah.
thing, but night after night, it gets a little old.
Yeah.
And I also appreciate that they have their quick service options not only in the pool area,
Yes.
because sometimes you don't want to go up to the very warm, wet pool area, where your seat may have just been used by somebody in a dripping wet bathing suit type situation. So it's nice that they're around the ship. So
Yes. With indoor seating areas for all 4 of them. Stitches was not quite big enough. It's so popular, so popular that the line would get very long, and it was hard to find a table inside. But the other 3 had decent size indoor seating, but all 4 of them
Mhm.
do have indoor air-conditioned seating.
Excellent. Well, so far it sounds better than I kind of thought it was gonna. I mean, I can see why I can see why it's worth a long flight in excessive heat. And
Oh,
I'm glad they have food inside because I don't like to eat outside when it's hot. So things are
they do.
looking up, looking up.
Well, I do have a question. You did 3 back-to-back sailings. Now, these are not super long, but you are just floating basically out in the middle of the water. You're not going to any ports. Did you find and I've cruised with you, and you've taken a lot of cruises, and you know the ports in the Caribbean, and so sometimes you get on off the ship, sometimes you don't. Did you find that there was plenty to do on board apart from the rides and things like that? They had plenty of activities to keep people engaged throughout the day because I mean that's a lot of time floating out on water. I know you had to get off.
That question translates as Rachel saying, "What kind of trivia did they
Yes.
have on board?"
Did I find trivia and do I get to play along?
There is a lot to do on board, that's the good news, and I don't think there was ever really a time we were mostly running from things to things, and
Okay.
not so much just sitting around going, "Oh, we have nothing to do." So much to do. We did a lot of trivias. We also won a few trivias, and so you would be very proud of us, Rachel. We did a lot of different trivias, and funny, some of them were advertised, this is Disney trivia at this time. And there might be a second trivia over after it, and the host would stand up front, and then they'd be like, "Hey, what trivia do y'all want to do?" And they'd like survey the crowd and say, "Here's
Oh,
my
wow.
option," which was kind of fun. So we ended up in a couple trivias we weren't expecting to. And then at night, and most of those were, I think all of those during the day were family trivias. But then late at night, they did have some adult only trivias, usually music trivia.
Okay. Well, good to know. I have plenty to do on board. Thank you.
Yep. Yep. I do think one thing about not stopping in any ports, well, there's 2 things about it. One, the ship not stopping in any ports means the ship is not going very fast, which is great for a very smooth sailing. It's not great for some air circulation outside at times, like Wayfinder Bay, which is on the back of the ship, which several other lines have something very similar. Wayfinder Bay was stifling at times, and we tried to go out there and watch the Moana show that's performed out there, and we made it 10 minutes, and we're like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore." And there's no shade because the shade would obstruct people's viewing in front of you, and because the ship was not moving very quickly, and because the time that we were there, that we weren't at an angle where there was any shade from the ship, it was hot. It was really hot. So I think they're going to need to figure something out for that. But the other thing about not stopping at any ports is that it means nobody is ever getting off. So that means there is never a time where the ship feels quieter. I did not find the crowds overly bad at all, but everyone is on board all the time. And so
Mhm.
you've got to prepare yourself for that. I think also it's hard on the crew members. And we did talk to one crew member that was having a hard time with it because they don't ever have time to get off either. And he was saying, I don't have time to get off and go, this person does not work for Disney Cruise Line anymore. Not because of that. So I feel okay saying this. He was like, I don't have time to get off and go buy deodorant because, we get back to port and we're turning over the ship for the next cruise that's starting in just a few hours.
Oh, yeah.
And so I hadn't thought about that, how hard that is on the crew members to not be able to get off themselves either.
Yeah,
I
I not
know.
something I thought of either. I remember, my sailing recently, even stopping in Aruba and Curacao, some of the times that we would go back on board a couple of hours before, and you would see crew members just in their day clothes being
Yep.
able to get off and just go you're right, go buy shampoo, go buy deodorant, things like that. So yeah, did not I that was the have not thought about that at all. That would be very, very difficult.
Yep. Yep. Mhm.
It's especially alarming after she told us about the heat at Wayfinder Bay, and now she's telling us people don't have deodorant.
So bring deodorant for the crew members is what I'm hearing.
I don't know, maybe.
He did find deodorant somehow. I don't know how, but he did find deodorant
Thank
somehow.
goodness. That poor guy. But I am concerned about the heat there in that area of the ship because Tammy is usually somebody who can take the heat.
It's
I
true.
am not. So I probably wouldn't have even made it to that area to go out and try to watch Moana. So
Same thing here. Yeah.
gross.
It's true, and I do not generally have a hard time with heat, like Missy said, and I think that's one reason I also think those staterooms that overlook Wayfinder Bay have a beautiful view off the back of the ship anyway, but I thought, "Oh, well, those would be nice staterooms there because they can just watch Moana and anything else that's happening
Mhm.
from their balcony."
Well, I wonder though if anybody has those, if how popular those are, because if you don't get a lot of air circulation, sitting out in a veranda is not going to be fun
Yeah.
at any time, whether there's a show going on or not. And that's one of the nice things about having a veranda is when you are moving and you get that breeze going. But
Mhm.
if it's not moving very fast, I wouldn't. You
Yeah.
would not catch me out there. I would not be outside. I'll open the curtains and peek.
So, Tammy, as you had mentioned, a lot of parts of this ship were completed at the time that Disney Cruise Line took possession of it and started their construction. Were there any things that you noticed that were part of this ship's design, like any big things that you thought, oh, wow, I wish the rest of the fleet would do it like this, or this is way better this way?
Yes, the escalators. Escalators are so
Every ship should
good.
have escalators,
They
right?
should. They should. And I am 100% a take the stairs person on a ship. And
You are.
I take the stairs everywhere. But the
Tammy and I
escalators,
race so much. And the way we race is that she takes the stairs and then I see if I could beat her in an elevator.
accurate, totally accurate, exactly. But the escalators span 5 decks, I think, and 4 or 5, and they really help with the bottlenecks at the elevators and whatnot. They're super easy just to jump on, take to the next level, take a couple of levels up, and not stand in line and wait for wait for an elevator where everyone else is. And so I think the escalators are brilliant, and I think they could really use them. They take up some space, but they could use them. I would love to see them on all the ships, which would be impossible, but I would still love that.
And they can still be used even if for some reason there's no power. I wonder if you could use them interchangeably where you would normally have steps in some cases, because they could still be used as steps in the event of a power outage. The only
That's
ship I remember seeing them on before, I know the Icon class has them. We've seen them on Icon and Star of the Seas with Royal Caribbean, but I'm pretty sure it only went from the lower deck, like where the casino is and where you disembark, up to their main promenade area. It didn't go out to anywhere beyond, like it went into the area where the Pearl is, but I don't think it went deck to deck to deck like you're explaining is on the Adventure.
right. I think on Star of the Seas, if I'm remembering correctly, it's only when you're getting on the ship and getting on and off at ports that you're going to use those elevators because of where they're located.
I was thinking the
Yeah.
casino was down there, but I could be wrong. I may be
That's true.
thinking of another ship. There's a lot of ships in my head
Yeah,
right now.
we had an escalator on the Allure, and that was we only accessible when we were getting off the ship, or getting
Okay.
back on. And that wasn't it. And it depended on what deck the gangway was on because we didn't use it. I can't
Hmm.
remember which stop we didn't use it on, but
We're seeing one on any Oasis class ships,
yeah,
but
we used it on the Allure.
I think it was
Yeah,
on Allure. Okay.
so I can't remember if I used it on the Harmony. That was quite a while ago, but yeah, the Allure definitely had them.
They were
Okay.
on the Adventure. They were smart escalators as well because I was up very, very early one morning, like 4 or 5 in the morning, and time change. And I said, "Well, I'm going to jump up and go take pictures of the ship when it's empty." And as I was walking around, when I came to the elevators, when I was on one of those decks, escalators, I was like, "They're not moving. I guess they don't turn them on yet." And as soon as I got within a step of it, it started, and I was like, "These are smart."
They are smart. Well, it sounds like you had a fabulous sailing to sailing to sailing. Do you have any other last thoughts or recommendations for the adventure that we haven't touched base on already before we wrap things up today?
No, just a quick touch on the back to back to back. It's basically the same process as anytime you do a back to back here as well. You're going to meet up, and Disney's going to give you a certain area to meet up, and with all the other back-to-backers, and there were not as many as I expected either time. And less than 100, I was expecting many, many people to do back-to-backs because of the short length of these sailings, but that was not the case when we were there. And you're gonna get off all together. You're gonna wait in the terminal for you're gonna recheck back in, all of that. You're gonna wait for not very long and then be the first people back on board, which is great because the ship is empty and there's so much you can do then. They also will move all of your things to your new room if you're not staying in the same stateroom, and they'll do that stateside as well, any of these ships here. And it was so nice not to have to repack every time. We just did a very minimal packing. You know, we had bags, we put some things back in our suitcases. They moved our closet, from one closet to the next. And they did that same process they were on the adventure.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of throw something at you now, Tammy, that we did not plan.
Okay.
Don't you love it when I do this in daily life? This is the first I've ever done it while being recorded somewhere. We did not plan a top 5 for today because we didn't think we'd really have enough time. But can you just spout off your top 5 favorite things about the Disney adventure? Like when you think of the adventure, what are your favorite things that come to mind?
Okay, let's see. First thing is San Francisco, which we didn't even talk about.
Oh, okay. We'll see.
Well, there you go.
I always say it's the most impressive space on board, so I have to say it. And I know you've talked about it before with Rob, but it's such a really great. The theming is incredible. It's like you stepped off the subway and into San Francisco, and you can totally forget you're on a cruise ship there. And there's a lot to do in there. It's just really, really well themed. So, and Edge and Vibe are like hidden in there. The teen and the tween clubs are hidden in there. They look like storefronts, but they're actually, the clubs are in there. And there's a really fun, we've been debating what you call this game, an interactive D game. It's a group, there are 4 of you play at once and you're playing games on the floor, almost like Dance Dance Revolution, but it's a whole room. It's very, very fun.
Oh, wow. That's a blast in the past. Dance Dance Revolution. Revolution. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
That's the only thing I can think to compare it to. And I've been debating what to call it in the book because we don't know how to describe it. We did it once and we would have done it much more had we known. It was very, very fun. So San Francisco would be number 1. Number 2 would be Imagination Garden, which is just such a beautiful space. And the Mickey topiary there, I just love, love, love. There's always a line for pictures with them. It's a really, really well done space. The quick service would be number 3. Stitch the hamburgers. I did like the other quick service as well, but those hamburgers, yes, that would be number 3. I did not touch on the concierge benefits there, and there are a lot, and they're really plussed up from the other ships. And so the plussed up concierge benefits there were great. Like they have a grill where they also had excellent hamburgers. I guess I'd have to add to my hamburger count because I had a few up there as well.
Those concierge hamburgers don't count.
Not even count those. But a grill, they're, an exclusive restaurant for concierge, which you don't see on any of the other ships. Also, there's a spa.
When you first said, my mind is just not in this today, I guess, because the first time you said they have a grill, I'm picturing some cast member out on deck, like with a grill, like flipping the burgers and dogs. Like,
how would you like your burger?
I'm like, that must be cultural too. I didn't know they could, like, is it propane or is it electric? Now I get it. It's a quick service.
I'm sure there is an actual grill in there somewhere.
But yeah, he's not out on deck though with
not that I saw
with his apron and like flipping the burgers and like a picnic. That's what was in my head.
Right. And the concierge lounge also had 2 stores. It had that only available to concierge guests. It has a spa and a fitness center only available to concierge guests. Empty fitness center. If you're going to be in the fitness center, it's a private fitness center basically for yourself. And then in the spa, the locker rooms there, the changing rooms, also has a rainforest room, basically. And inside those changing rooms, which were just for concierge guests, and it was completely included, they had the heated tile chairs, they had a plunge pool, they had a sauna, all of that. So the concierge area, really, really nice. So was that my number 3 or 4? I already forgot.
That was 4. So you've got one more. Can you think of one more thing you liked about this?
Let's see. Oh, I think I have to go with the coaster, which is not something I thought I would say, but I think I would have to go with Iron Cycle. We loved it so much.
All right. Well, that was a good top 5. I hope you don't mind me throwing that at you. It was pretty fun. And I like, it's you get pretty authentic when it's just a spur of the moment, not something you got to think through. Now, after we wrap this up today, Tammy will think of like 5 different things she
Of
should have
course.
said instead,
Yeah.
I'm sure, because there are a ton of fantastic things on the ship. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Tammy. If you, our listeners out there, don't already follow Tammy on social media, you should, because she is not only very informative, but she's also super entertaining, always
Yes.
putting some fun cruise related reels out there and good factual information. She's not one of those clickbait sites out there where you're going to get drug in by some ridiculous information that is really misinformation. She only puts out real facts. And you can follow her on Instagram and TikTok. And she's on Facebook also as Cruising with Tammy. And she's also started a Facebook group, which I have found to be fun and helpful, for the Unofficial Guide to Disney Cruise Line. So it's called the Unofficial Guide to Disney Cruise Line Tips and Tricks, I believe is the name of that group. We would love for you to join in there as well and follow the fun. It always seems to be a fun time for different conversations of people's opinions on things, different staterooms, different beverages, just all the stuff we all love talking about with Disney Cruise Line. So check that out when you get a chance. So thank you so much, Tammy, for joining us. And I truly hope we get to sail again with you soon.
Hope so. Thank you
Go
for having
cruising
me.
with Tammy.
That's right. Cruising with Tammy is the life. Be the cruiser. Today's listener question actually does involve Disney Cruise Line and something we were just chatting about in today's episode, and that is Palo, which is the adult-only restaurant on most of the ships, excluding the Disney Adventure. This question is, if you had to skip one of the main dining rooms in order to fit Palo in on a 3-night sailing, which restaurant do you think is the one to skip? So that is, I think, a tricky question and very much left up to your own opinion, but let's see what everybody thinks there. Tammy, do you want to get in and weigh in on that question?
Sure. If was going to talk adventure, which one I would skip, I would
Oh, okay.
if I was going to do that, I would probably say a Summer Palace or Pixar Market. Both are very cute, but there's nothing overly, there's no big entertainment portion happening in there like there is on all 4 of the other restaurants on board. If I was going to talk more of the original fleet, then I would say Royal Court, Royal Palace. And kind of the same reason. Nothing overly exciting is happening in there. And I'm not a big French food eater, which there's some of that is French, more French leaning. And so that is my restaurant that I would skip.
Okay.
All right.
That's pretty much in line with what I was thinking also. 1923 popped to mind, but of course you're on a different class than I was, but they're pretty comparable. They're the typical, like the standard main dining room, semi-formal option across Disney Cruise Line fleet. So you have 1923 on the Wish class, you have Royal Court on the Fantasy, Royal Court on the Fantasy, Royal Palace on the Dream, and then you have Tritons and Lumiere's on the, wow, we have so many ships now. I have trouble keeping track of them. I'm a little torn saying this because while that's what I would recommend to a first-time cruiser, for me personally, I like the more standard, traditional, regular meal rather than the more entertaining options like dining in Arendelle or Plaza de Coco or even Worlds of Marvel. So while I don't personally love those options, I think there's something that most families wouldn't want to miss. So that's why I would lean towards skipping the more traditional meal, the more formal meal, because that's what you'll experience in Palo if you're dining there. How about you, Rachel?
Okay, so I'm going to add the caveat that when we discussed Palo earlier in the episode, my children are at the age where I would not leave them to their own devices to go to main dining room by themselves. So
Right.
understand that. I'm talking this purely from a lot of our cruises that we take together with adults. And that would be Worlds of Marvel, hands down. I just think they have the worst menu. So
What?
it
The
I
schnitzel is
love that
good.
menu. I love the schnitzel. It's so good.
yeah, so that would be it for me. And we have definitely talked about our not love for the shows necessarily on some of these because we just want to talk. And I do see the appeal.
Y'all said that.
My kids would love it. My kids would love it. They absolutely would. They would love it. And so again, if I was with them, it wouldn't be something that I would say, okay, you guys are going to the main dining room on your own tonight. Then I would I'm just going to fight for brunch. But for anything where my children are not on board, Worlds of Marvel would be my first choice. If you have a question that you would like to have us answer, there are a few Ways that you can get in touch with us, we have 2 email addresses. The first one is podcast@storybookdestinations.com and also a Disney Life at storybookdestinations.com. We do also have several social media channels. We are on Instagram and TikTok at a Disney Life Pod, and we also have a Facebook group called a Disney Life Podcast, and you can interact with us there. We'd love to have you join us on our socials. So for this week's tip of the week, I'm going to give one that's great all year long, but especially this time of the year where the temperatures are so high, and that is obviously to stay hydrated, but I'm going to give you a little tip. There are several places, depending on what resort you are, especially if you're at value resorts or even some quick service restaurants throughout the parks where you can go and get your own water. Now, this may sound silly, but pay careful attention to where you are getting your water from. The actual filtered water is under usually the lemonade, where you can find the filtered water button for there. If you go over to where the Sprite is located, you will get sparkling water. So you may get a little bit of a surprise that you weren't expecting. So while that seems silly, keep that in mind. If you're not a fan of sparkling water, don't hit the button under Sprite because they are not labeled. They just show a water drop.
A drop of water. Yes,
Yes.
I've done that before, Rachel.
Yes.
That's a good tip.
That happened a few times in our last one when the children volunteered to go fill up water cups for us. And then we got a nice surprise later on in Epcot. So just keep that in mind. It does sound silly, and usually they would be labeled as soda water or just filtered water, but they are not at Walt Disney World. So pay attention to where you get your water from. Tammy, thank you again for joining us. I love hearing about the adventure because I do think it would be quite a while before I ever would have the opportunity to go on board. So I love hearing all about it. Cannot wait to get photos from you that we can share too of your adventures. And we just really appreciate you always being willing to come and stop by and share your trips with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Missy, great to talk with you too. Thank you for joining me today, my co-host. And we can't wait to see everyone next week.
All righty. We'll see you soon.